On is a European sports apparel company that fuses Swiss technology into their products for athletes of all kinds. Founded literally on the side of a mountain, how does a company bring to life its values and products to a location in a concrete jungle thousands of miles away? In this video, Piers Fawkes will be talking to On's head of retail expansion about the strategy and execution of a new store in New York City where the technology is hidden and the experience is designed to be magical. So with me today, I've got Nico Martin. He's head of retail expansion at On, the sports and lifestyle brands. And they've recently opened a store in New York City. I wanted to talk to Nico, find out about the strategy around that opening, and walk through the experience. Hey, Nico.
Hey, Piers, thanks for having me. Happy to connect.
Great to connect. Maybe we can just start and could you tell us a little bit about the On brand? Some people may be very familiar with it, but it's a fairly new brand.
Absolutely. On is a sports brand founded in 2010 in Switzerland, in Zurich. It's very much a brand born in the Swiss Alps. And at the core of the brand, and one of the three founders was a multi-world triathlete champion himself. And so I think maybe the main takeaways that I would often say, it's that passion for sports, for sort of product innovation and engineering is really at the core of what On was built on. And then that's very much still our focus today. It's all about, making the best sort of Swiss engineered product for the best athletes. And then now also, sort of athletes of all walks and genders throughout the world.
That's great. And so what is the mix between retail and brand manufacturing or wholesale business, and how much do you step into that?
Yeah, so On actually perhaps a bit, On is an extremely fast growing company. I think that's also what, it's what sort of culminated in the flagship opening in New York City. And I think when you perhaps compare us with other brands, we were sort of a bit late in terms of our growth strategy, and very purposefully though, to enter our own stores. So we have amazing retailer distribution partners that we work very close with throughout the world. We have over 8,000 retailer doors worldwide now. And it was actually just more recently in December that we sort of opened our first global flagship in New York City. And in doing so, we were very much sort of course, like in this process of where do we open a flagship? How do we enter that strategy? It has to tie in and complement and support our retailer sort of, the B2B distribution and growth there too. So that's very much core of our strategy here. We don't go in and compete. We actually have shown and pull in our distributor partners to build up brand awareness and revenue in a city. So, everybody benefits, our fans, our distributor partners, and of course our D2C business.
That's great. So when we talk about the New York City flagship store, can you talk to us a little bit about the strategy and some of the thinking behind it?
Yeah, so let me click to here. So I think what was important for us with the New York City flagship, it was essentially the first time that we had to materialize or bring sort of, a physical brand home to our customers. And that's, of course, the benefit of own retail and the D2C branch. We had a pretty strong, a very strong presence, with e-com, D2C e-com. That's more of a digital, flagship or experience. And I think our big ambition here with a physical space is just how can we really bring that experience, bring that environment to physical customers in a physical way. And of course, having that person to human interaction. And I think so when we go back to the roots of, like I was mentioning where On is, it's very much the purpose of On was like the products that connect sort of via technology, a human experience to their environments. And so when we started, conceptualizing what can we sort of bring to New York City and future locations, it's sort of this mixture of nature versus or meets technology. That was sort of the experience we wanted to showcase. And in the sense, like our products are that connector, and then let's sort of test and make our store also something that provides an experience that's not just about, a physical location to put shoes and other products in.
Great. Okay. And I think obviously just looking at this picture, we see this mix of the On technology and the great outdoors. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so I mean, like so this is, I mean, this is legitimately where On was born in the Engadine Valley in Switzerland. We built a mountain hut one summer, but so now when of course it came to like how do we bring this to New York City, for example, in the case we're talking about, we then have to sort of dissect different elements that sort of allow us to tell the story of the brand, tell the story of technology. We already have had a big community of runners and customers in New York City, and how can we relate and benefit them and inspire them as much as possible. So sort of our first direction was sort of taking how can On enter via this sort of technology engineered object and then adapt to the local New York City context. And that's very much, I think, the way we're going to think about retail and locations wherever we go. We always have a large local contextual element that, of course, is extremely important with the running community, with the sports community, etc. And then that was actually kind of the seed that, of course, now grew into the New York City store that is shown here. If I just continue, so in New York City, it was in NoHo, and maybe back to your question, like how does New York City come about? New York City was one. I mean, the U.S. market, of course, is very important to us. New York City is one of the key cities for retail, and it's also in a sense, if you can't make it in New York City, perhaps it's going to be difficult elsewhere. So for us, it was very much a bold move we wanted to do in one go and open with a statement. And so we chose NoHo as well, sort of to mix the populations of tourists, of influencers, but also a lot of very local New Yorkers. So I think it was very purposeful that we didn't end up in perhaps another neighborhood where it was very tourist driven. We wanted to have a very nice mixture of different types of people visiting the store and a nice local influencer exposure in the NoHo corner you see over here, very close to NYU as well.
Okay, that's important. Sort of like the student mix in some ways.
Absolutely, and I think that's also what's interesting, and we keep seeing it evolve more and more as we launch new product. But the customers and the community around On, it is quite diverse. You have large athletic communities. You have more and more sort of people in the athleisure or performance all day space, and also we get younger and also older crowds at the same time. So I think that exposure to multiple people and multiple populations was key.
So the store, and you think that the store kind of reflects that, or tries to embrace all that?
Yes, and I think so. Our take on the store, maybe I answer like this. So
yeah,
for us, I mean, I hope at least that was the intent, that the store looks a bit less traditional in terms of a store typology. And I think, I mean, our take on that was, hey, what if we became more science museum than sort of traditional store environment? And what that meant for us, it's like in these pictures, you see what it looks like. But we very much also approach it for what does it feel like? And I think we talked about 4 On retail spirits. And so one spirit was that when a customer leaves the store, we want them to say, wow, that felt magical, in the sense that like something was there to inspire you, to surprise you. There was this sort of sense of wonder that you did not expect. Another one was, hey, wow, that was easy. So this one's actually purely based on a convenience factor. How can we, make buying a shoe or testing a shoe or learning about a brand as easy as possible, to the extent that it becomes something, you leave with a positive intent after. The third one was, wow, that felt educational. So it was a key mission because we are very much built on technology, proven technology, patented technology. So we needed to explain the benefits and how the product works. So that became very much the science museum like things. You see 2 of them on the left of this image here. These sort of devices that you could touch, you could interact with. They show you how something works. It doesn't just tell you how it worked. And the last sort of spirit we talk about, it's like we want you to leave thinking, wow, that made me feel good. So just this sort of positive spirit, this uplifting thing you would feel when you interact with our team over there. You leave the store, you're in our product. So very much the feeling, the experience was built on those 4 things. Make it magic, make it easy, make it educational, and just making it feel good. And maybe just to connect, I think like, so here's an example, very basic, of perhaps the magic and the easy one. showcased. A lot of what we pulled on for our first flagship was what sort of was most critical and close to the hearts of our fans beforehand, and also how we knew people like to sort of, to experience and to touch the product, to see product. So two things that we knew worked very well and connected very well with our fans from before was sort of On's originals growth was all like word of mouth through events. And at events, we had what you see here on the left, this sort of try-on station where you just grab a pair of shoes, they're your size, you put them on the feet, and immediately you have that the famous sensation of, running on clouds. And so how can we keep that in now a very, premium store environment? The other one that has, it's more what our 7,000, 8,000 doors worldwide look like. You have this the black magic wall, where it's just very much a beautiful presentation of the product. And then so combining these two things, it's where, we then sort of transition and develop this new tool that allows the product to be showcased in a really beautiful way. We could talk about families, we could talk about specialties, but then you have this incredible, easy and magical moment with the store staff, the store team, where they just pull out the shelf. It's a huge surprise moment. We always get a lot of like literal wows and ahs when that happens. And then, you just grab that pair that's directly behind those shoes.
That's the real stock. There's the inventory, yeah.
These are purely try-on shoes.
Okay.
So
okay.
When you want to make that final purpose, I mean, we offer, drop ship. We can process it online and just get it to your door ASAP. Or you could, of course, pull it from our real inventory, which is in the basement in the store. But what this offers us, it's that just in terms of easiness and speed, when a customer is, trying to get on shoes or explore things like this, the advisor does not have to leave that person's side. So you don't have to leave them, go to the basement, spend 5 minutes searching for it and pull it up. This allows you to immediately pull a couple pairs, have them on your feet literally within seconds, and get that feeling of being on clouds, which for us, I mean, that's a real thing. And so, we also made decisions such as the hard floor. How can we just make that feeling as easy as possible to get into quick, and also then you feel very, in its natural format. Same thing. So, then, I mean, as we're very much a sports company. And then, so we have tons of apparel and things like this as well. So on the apparel, and actually you see it a bit from this image to the right to what you see here now, we have our apparel alcoves have these actual doors on them, these large panels that offer this sort of theatricalness when you go into a fitting room or you go to explore the apparel. We have the ability to sort of close these nooks off, so they become that more discovery, the magical moments that we talked about before. And actually, some of our fitting rooms are actually very warm, all in wood, all in natural elements, to kind of offer that scent. So technology, as mentioned, at the beginning intro, technology is extremely important here. However, we've seen it so many times in many retail stores or in any business or industry, where retail sort of maybe tends to dominate a bit more that experience, where it's more about touching the iPad rather actually the content there. And then so for our take on that was sort of how can we be as technology sophisticated as possible, making it seem magical and just out of the world, but then make it disappear. So we wanted technology to be completely invisible. And so for some things like that, we have in our store, we have probably one of the biggest screens you'll see in retail in New York City. We have a 17-meter long screen that runs the whole span, but it's actually hidden, or it's sort of layered with this metal grid that makes it more of an architectural, playful element. And when you enter the store, you're of course in front of this element, and then there are cameras positioned very discreetly, invisibly throughout the store that record your moment. So the content, the colors you see here on this image to the left, it's actually something when you're in the store, you stand in front of it and you move around, you play it with it, and it responds to your movement. It also becomes the support for sort of these science museum like 3D campaigns that you would see, on the right side of this image. So as much as we could show you, as much as we can make physical, that's what it's all about here. On that note, so then again, it was born in the Swiss Alps. We can't really invite everybody to come to the Swiss Alps. I mean, I hope everybody does, but in the meantime, it's like, let's bring the Swiss Alps to you. And so a core sort of brand storytelling element, and also a sort of inspirational sculpture we introduced here. We 3D scanned a real rock in Gideon Valley where Ron was born, and we then printed it. We in 3D printed it locally in New York City, and that's what you see in this image. So it's this it's something, again, you could touch, you could approach your camera phone to it, and there's an NFC reader embedded within the rock that automatically links you to the larger story. So there's all these different layers of how technology ends up in the store, how we tell stories very simply through that technology as a physical object itself, or then you go down a couple layers and we go into sort of, these digitally powered stories that link you to our website or other videos that allow us to tell omni-channel stories. Maybe just one last element I had here just to show you. We have the on scan was a first in the industry, and especially so in our store. In front of this wall, we have an experience where as a runner, or as actually anybody, you could just run a couple meters within our store. There's no treadmill, there's nothing, there's no equipment you would see. But with that simple, you need to do 3 strides, we're able to offer a really detailed breakdown on your cadence, your touch time, all of these sort of professional running statistics that normally would look like the screen you see to the top right here, but it's done in a completely invisible way. And then it's information beamed to the advisor that then works with a customer one-on-one to break down how their takeaway and how we could use that information to advise them on the best running shoe that suits their needs and their goals. So again, just an example of how technology is there throughout everything in a hidden format. And it's all about that human to human experience you would get either, with your friends that you visit the store with or with the advisor.
Thanks so much, Nico. Just a couple of quick questions. One about the shopper journey, both the kind of let's just talk about the term omnichannel and what does that mean to you and as you build out stores?
Yeah, that's super interesting. So right now we're going through a big effort, of course, now that we have this physical format, and the importance of omnichannel becomes that more important because we have the ability now to really control and to influence physical space and digital space. So to us, what that means, it's that the digital space and the physical space needs to be part of the whole thing. So as much as possible, we link those 2 worlds through storytelling, of course, is one, where we have, in the physical space, we have digital touch points that connect you to the physical world, and also vice versa. When you sort of see outfits displayed and visual merchandising on our digital flagship, you will start to recognize and see some of these same things in the physical store formats. We're using the same languages more and more. We're also, in terms of like drop shipping and all of these things that would facilitate just convenience. Of course, we are implementing these, and we see the huge benefits that customers want that variety. There are very much customers that stick to these omnichannel tools and that want them and that use them. Others, of course, we see, they sort of want the traditional retail experience, so to speak. And that's why, of course, we carry inventory for that purpose, that you will be able to pick up any shoe you'd like in this location.
Yeah, I mean, drop shipping is super interesting for me. You go in and you don't walk out, but it turns up at home maybe tomorrow. And I guess that in New York City, you always have a tourist element, so you always have to think about people who won't be there tomorrow as well.
Yeah, but that's exactly, and that's a huge convenience. I mean, even for New Yorkers, sometimes, if you're going about your day and you don't want to carry around a box, just getting it the next day directly at your doorstep's wonderful. If you're more a visitor in town, whether international or national, we could just ship that same thing you just tried on in the store to your address in another state, another country, and it's a great feature to be able to offer.
That's wonderful. And just my final question is, it is a beautiful store, and anybody watching, I suggest go and experience all of these things. It has been obviously an interesting time since you've opened the store. What learnings have you taken from the store opening that's going to kind of influence your retail strategy going forward, if any?
Mm-hmm. I mean, one that also ties to the omnichannel approach, what you still see the on scan, for example, like these sort of tools that really offer customers something they haven't experienced before. That was, really an R&D project within. we've been fortunate to see that they're a very big success. And not only are they very helpful for customers, but it allows us also to, when a person enters the store, we, you know, are able to save that information if they'd like to. And so when they visit the website later, for example, they'll be able to pop up their on scan analysis that, you know, so whether you're in the store or then whether you're in a digital flagship later on our website, you will be able to get that breakdown of what's your style, what elements, what product suits you best. So that's maybe one element that we've been able to confirm, you know, let's continue developing this as much as possible. Then there are other ones, such as just I think that atmosphere of just how to break down things as easy as possible. And I think that's best shown at the moment, you know, in what we're doing with the shoe selection and try on. This, when you go to a physical space, it should be all about the human to human. And that's something, you know, that gets confirmed again and again. The more time in our store, so far, our problem is actually more that people want to spend so much time in it. And so, you know, often they'll be there 45, 50 minutes, touching all these things, talking with the advisors, which is exactly what we wanted, because it means that there's things that are interesting there. Our store team is amazing. You have those storytelling elements. So this is something also now, like, how can we, you know, on one hand, pull the digital tools into physical space, but then also mimic some of these things as best they can here and continue to develop them in future locations.
Thanks, Nico Martin, Head of Retail Expansion for On. Thank you so much for your time today and taking us through the New York City flagship store.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.